Francesca, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you.
Now, you are CFO of Cynergy Bank, who are a brilliant new partner of ours. And we have a fantastic relationship because obviously we're working with a membership jam-packed with family businesses around the country. And your specialism is family businesses, being a family-owned bank, which is amazing. But obviously with family business comes so many complexities and nuances that you just don't find in corporate life, you know. And you've got so much experience of working with family businesses as clients, friends, contacts, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity for you to share some of your experiences with our audience, some of the things you've seen that have been working really well with your customers, some of the troubles they've had, how they've had to adapt, etc. Because it's all fantastic sort of inspiration and advice for our members. So I'm going to pick your brains. Is that okay?
I'm very happy to share. If I can be of some use to your members, then it'll be a good morning's work.
Perfect. So today I thought we could focus on particularly women working in family businesses because of our membership. There are so many women. We're a female-led business founded by my mum, you know, and the family business allows for some fantastic opportunities for women, but obviously shares similar challenges to women everywhere. And I know it's something you're particularly passionate about. So why don't you sort of introduce yourself and kick us off?
Thank you. So it's absolutely one of my passions. I've been in banking for over 30 years now, and I've seen it change. It's changed for men as well, but I've really seen it change for women over the years. And it's something obviously I've been promoting from the beginning, which is just that women's lives can be different to men's. Obviously, we're the ones that have the babies. We sometimes get more than our share of the household burdens, etc. It doesn't happen always, but as a rule, we do, and we certainly used to. And that does give us more challenges when we're trying to actually have a career, either in anything from a big corporate or, as you say, running a family business. I mean, the demands are very different. I mean, there's a reason that the old adage is about women juggling. Yes, we do juggle, guys juggle as well, but yeah, we do tend to juggle quite different parts of our lives. And I think COVID this year will be a catalyst for change. I think things have changed over the years, certainly since I've been there. You know, working from home wasn't something that we would ever do. That fear of having your first baby and what it would do to your career. I can only imagine for a lady owning her own family business, she's going to be worrying about the period when she's actually trying to concentrate on the babies rather than the business. And all of those things play havoc with our minds. And let's be honest, women talk a lot, probably more than men, and we overthink things. Yes, I know we do. That's just how we're made. But obviously that's quite a burden to carry. But I think COVID's really changed the landscape for this, because those challenges which were already happening, we were already working, we were already running our businesses, we were already looking after the children, doing the household, but the men were missing out on this, and partners were missing out on this when they were going to work in the traditional office with their commuting time. What COVID's allowed is that balance to start happening. And I think from what I'm seeing, that I've got a lot of guys and ladies working for me. The guys are really enjoying this new time they've got, not in the office. And that's a real pleasure to see. And for women, we're actually able to mix our lives a little bit better. You know, I used to think I was an evening person, so I'd do all my work in the evening. I've definitely changed over the years. And I was commuting a long way to go to London. You know, 4 hours of my day is commuting to London, which meant I had to sacrifice something in my life. So I sacrificed seeing my children quite a lot of the time over the last 15 years. And this year it's really hit me and made me feel really guilty for what I did. But I can't fix my time. But what you can do now is actually mix things together and get your share. And I think there's been a greater appreciation of the role that women have been playing in their lives, both, you know, household work, etc. So I think positive news out of COVID is that there is a rebalance. I think it will take some more time. But now basically it's leveling the playing fields a little bit about what people want. And for women, I think, as I was saying earlier, my experience is we can overthink things. You know, we can get quite anxious about this kind of stuff. And if it takes some of the pressure off that it's okay to talk about these things now, that in itself is a huge positive benefit.
Absolutely. And I love what you say actually about men having this greater appreciation of what women do, but also home life. And like you say, you were missing out on your children. Well, that's the majority of men, aren't they? They're sacrificing time with their children for that 2-hour commute into the city. And, you know, I think maybe nothing tested women juggling quite like homeschooling and trying to work.
I'm with you, yeah. And I think, interesting enough, you know, talking to some of the guys who work for me, they've been enjoying that side of schooling. It's not something they'd ever get involved with. And if we think about it from the perspective of the children, wow, what a different life they're now having. They've got both their parents there much more. I think, you know, in the long term, I think that's a really good thing for children. And I think even that in itself will level the playing field between women and man, their role in the organisation, because the children will see quite an equal spread of chores versus work across their parents, which is only a good thing. It's great role modelling. But, you know, that's just the parental side of it. I think there's also the other opportunities that are coming out. So if I think about some of the single ladies that work for me, I worry about them a little bit at the moment because COVID has put them inside. It's restricted their social lives. I've actually seen them throwing themselves into their work. And I'm sure that for you, for example, running your own big family business, if you've got spare time on your hands, the natural reaction is to go and do some more work. And I've really seen that. In fact, I would say this sort of double lockdown is different the second time round. In the first lockdown, as we were sort of settling in, once the panic had shifted, I started to get quite worried for the mental health side of things. We were all overworking, and I could see it in front of my eyes. People were just naturally working longer and longer and longer, earlier in the morning, longer in the day. At least when the kids were off school, people were looking after them. But when the kids went back to school, suddenly it was all work and no play. And I think if you're a single guy, single girl, it's exactly the same. What I would love to see, and I talk about it to some of my teams, is yes, we're stuck at home, but there's so much new stuff you can learn when you're at home. And I think if I think about some of the things we've done at the bank and I see contacts and things, contacts that I know an absolutely brilliant lady, and I got her to do some videos for the bank just on tips to make the most out of your day. And I've seen a huge swell in innovation and mental health ideas on how to manage your day come out. And this is all free resource. You can get this on the internet or you can pay for it. And I think if I was single at this time and I had all that time on my hands that I wasn't commuting, I would love to think that I could develop my hobbies, my other passions other than work. And I really think this is the time for people to take the opportunities to not just work, because when everywhere else are we going to get it? And so I do worry. On the one hand, I'm worrying about the mental health side of COVID and what it's doing, particularly if you're in a house on your own. Equally, I think for those entrepreneurial people, they'll grab it and they're taking new hobbies on, reading, researching. You know, I expect to see some life-changing decisions starting to come out of COVID. Either people thinking I don't like my job anymore, or I've learned something new about myself. And I think, again, that'll be a really, really, really good opportunity. This is a great time to do that. It's a catalyst for change, COVID is.
Fantastic. In terms of personal development, you're right. If you're somebody who has that sort of get up and go about you and can seize an opportunity, like you said, there's so much even free training out there. It's just fantastic. And an opportunity for women in business to maybe step up into something that they might not have felt comfortable doing in a normal scenario. Actually, it's an opportunity to do something from their own home and to, like you say, the lady that made those videos, something she maybe never would have done before. There's just so many different opportunities. So let's talk about women in family businesses. Now, last year we did a piece of research together called And Daughters, and the stats were actually terrifying, really. Why double the amount of family businesses go to a male heir instead of a female. And I have very strong opinions on this, and I think it's something which happens similarly in the corporate world, where at a woman's prime time in her career, or when she's about to take over the family business, also the time she's thinking, I'd like to start a family. Now, there are various different reasons for it, and every woman and every family business will be different. But what have you seen around women taking up those leadership roles in family businesses?
So, well, interesting enough, there's a couple of positive stories I've seen literally this summer on this subject. Following the launch of the campaign, we had hundreds of inquiries, and that shows you the strength of feeling that there is about this whole topic. And it isn't something that you consider until someone says it to you. So I've seen a couple of live examples where one in particular, the business was specialising in property, but the son and daughter were involved in the business, owned by the parents, and actually the daughter was looking to expand the business, and it wasn't something in their mainstream. Well, because of COVID, an opportunity actually came up to extend a business line into something slightly different from what they're used to, and they've actually taken that opportunity. So I think that was based on the resilience side of that particular lady. So resilience is something that I feel really strongly about. And I think if you're running a family business, you've already shown how resilient you can be. You've got to be. As a woman going to run their business and dealing with all the ups and downs of a business, you've proved yourself. Another thing I think we women suffer from is a lot of self-doubt. I know it isn't for ours to own. I know that men do too. However, I do think we have it in abundance, a lot of self-doubt. We can talk ourselves out of things very, very, very quickly. My tip for anyone running their own business or just being in a corporate life at the moment is get some of that research, get some of that free stuff on removing self-doubt from yourself, because the people who are resilient are going to come through this crisis in a way better position. And I think that customer I talked about in particular, that was the resilience of that daughter who just wasn't going to give up, and actually didn't allow the fact that she wasn't number one to stop her. So I think that was a really, really good story, and it was great to see that happen. I mean, we do look at the entire management team and the entire family when we're making credit decisions. So it's really important that the family profile is understood by the banker, and quite often I would say the women are the untapped talent in the organisation. Of course I'm going to say that, but I do think in all these family businesses, even the ones where the successor is going to be the man, that's okay. It may be a choice, but actually the ladies and the daughters and the sisters, etc., they're the untapped talent. And I think family businesses should really look at the whole family. No different from if you're in a management team in a corporate. The first thing you do as a leader is to say, what am I good at and what am I bad at? The best leaders are really self-aware. They know I'm great at innovation, I'm great at ideas, but I'm terrible at finishing them. Or I'm not actually that visionary, I'm not really creative, but I'm so good at managing my business. I know exactly how to do it. I'm great on the finances. I'm great on the operations of it. I'm great on the paperwork, but I just haven't got any new ideas. I don't think it's any different for a family. So I think a really good thing for any lady running a business is use this time, take a step back and have a look at the resources they've got around them, because identifying what you're great at and what you're not great at, you can plug the gaps. Now, the reason I say that is because your point, which you made so beautifully, is about it's always the wrong time. And I have personal experience of that, not just in my own career, but also in some of the ladies that have worked for me. And I've said the same for years. And in fact, one of the banks I was in, I did quite a big promotion on this, which is it should be okay to talk about it. I know the law makes it so difficult for women and really for men to talk openly to women about their maternity plans. But if this world is changing, we're all at home a lot of the time. We all have now met the pets, the children, the husbands and wives of the people we work with. And how fantastic is that? Because that wouldn't have necessarily happened before. So I think our communication lines are very different. I think there's new subjects that we can talk about. And that critical point of a lady who wants to go off and have her baby, or is just thinking about it, being a big corporate or running a family, should be something that we could talk about. And then you can make the plan. It's no different from a manager in your organisation not being there for 6 months for an operation. You've plugged the gap, you work out how you get through it, and then they feel good when they go off for their operation. Why is that any different? The lady should be able to go off quietly, not be thinking about work, have the baby, knowing that their job's going to be there when they come back, or indeed their business is going to be intact. So for me, I think, again, I see this as a positive coming out of COVID. I think we should be able to talk about this stuff. For any ladies running their family businesses now, I think they should plan it if they want to have a baby, and understand what are the gaps in their leadership style, who's good at it, who could fill the gaps. And it could be kind of outside consultancy help for that period, or it could be someone standing in and stepping in and helping out. I mean, the great thing about family businesses, everyone knows each other so well, so it's so easy to have that conversation and be able to say, I'm brilliant at this, but I'm terrible at this. Sometimes in corporate life, people are frightened to say they're not good at something. So there is that restriction. So again, I think there's so many positives, and you can actually make a plan. In fact, I've got a little personal story. A friend of mine, she is a female CEO. She was voted one of the fastest growing firms in Europe a couple of years ago. She is absolutely fantastic. She used to be in banking. She now sells banking products, her business, and she had a baby 3 years ago. And I said to her, who's going to run your business? And she said, I am. I said, well, how long are you taking off? And she said, 2 weeks. And I said, 2 weeks? You're not going to want to come back? She said, I'm not going anywhere. She said, my nursery has been built at work. I have a crash. I've told all my staff. They're going to be getting to know my baby as much as me. And you know, she did it. That baby went to work. Her daughter went to work and has been going to work. Obviously, she's at school now. And she rang me last week and said, guess what? I'm going on maternity leave again. And I hadn't realised she was pregnant. And I'm so delighted for her. And it didn't even occur to me to say, how are you going to run your business? Because she just runs her business. And it's fantastic. I love it. It's such a great story. And she just showed, you know, and she takes her baby travelling. It's the world is changing. The world is definitely changing. There was a big Women in IT conference that I attended in Amsterdam as a speaker last year. And there were thousands of women there. But what was fantastic is they had creche areas that you could take your children to. And when I registered, I was a speaker. They said, oh, do you need to bring anything? And I said, like what? Thinking you meant PowerPoints. I said, well, have you got any children you're bringing? I said, no. And they said, oh, okay, that's fine. We've got a nursery in place if you want to. How amazing is that? So I think the world's changing for the better.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, like you say, your friend, I mean, that's quite an extreme example. And I think many of us go to work to get away from our children.
There is that. I totally agree. But it just shows with a little bit of thinking, both can be done.
And I think the secret key word there was planning. And actually, it could be a fantastic opportunity for your business to exercise its robustness, really. So if you're planning to take some time off to have a baby, or you're planning to go down to 3 days a week because you want to spend some more time with your children, whatever it is, it's a fantastic opportunity for you as a business to test how robust you are.
Yep.
So get your systems and processes working better for you, to get people stepping up who've never had the opportunity.
Yep.
And like you said, I think all women are guilty of just thinking they can do it all themselves. They don't need to ask for help. You know, particularly if you run your own family business like me and you're a bit of a control freak. But the secret there, that every great guest I've ever had on my shows, is just employ people who are better than you.
Do you know, I absolutely, I live by that. When I take a new role, the best advice I ever had was find your successor straight away. Because as you say, it gives you then the chance, it gives them the chance to step up. It gives you the chance to step up. I mean, just because you're running your own business doesn't mean to say you can't step up. You could be running a bigger business or a different business or doing something different. And it allows you that thinking time, which is so important. When you're running your business, we tend to run all the time in the word. Actually thinking about the next step for it is probably more important than running it when you're the leader. And actually letting go and empowering that group of people to run it for you is such a good feeling when it works. It really is.
Okay, so let's move on to leadership then. So whether you are a woman in business, a mum in business, whatever it might, a single lady in business, whoever you are, you must have met a lot of amazing female leaders in your time. Some of your friends, it sounds like it, are fantastic ladies. So what are some of those brilliant traits about them that just make them such fantastic leaders?
Okay, so I used the word resilience already. I'm not going to carry on about that because I think we've talked about that. I think you have to have some resilience as a female leader. The resilience needs to come from resilience about yourself, like removing that personal doubt, resilience about how you work with your life, being able to fit everything in, and also resilience because in my line of work, it's quite male oriented. And we do approach things differently. People who say that we don't, I just don't believe they're right. You know, men's brains and women's brains do work slightly differently. Therefore, we approach things differently because that's the way we've always been taught it from tradition, etc., etc. But we do think differently. We do approach things differently. So you have to be resilient because you might be faced with more of a different approach than yours. So resilience is really, really important. So I can name so many wonderful women that I've had a chance to work with and work for, and also who've worked for me. I've got some brilliant women working for me at the moment, and they'll go on to greater things. I know they will. There's two that stand out that are very different. One was very thoughtful and knew exactly where they wanted to go. So that's one style, which is you have a vision, I know where I want to get to, and I'm going to think about it almost in a strategic way. So understand who needs to help me on my journey, what do I need to do, and literally almost a bit of a tick box exercise, I guess one could call it, but a plan. And did not diverge from the plan all the way through. And you could see this lady was going to get to where she wanted to get to. And I'm not going to name names, but it was really obvious from many, many, many years ago. And she had all the right people around her to support her in her journey. Now that's a good thing to do. Equally, there's another lady who is equally as brilliant. And again, I won't name her, but they're both really, really, really senior in financial services. And she was not calculating or planning how she was going to get there. In fact, there was a trail of destruction sometimes left around her. I absolutely loved her. She has a unique style. But again, you knew from that very moment she was going to get to where she wanted to because she had this incredible vision and didn't actually mind about the things that were left en route because she was going there. And they're really, really different approaches to take, but neither are right or wrong. They're just very, very different. I would definitely recommend one thing though, and it's worked for me, and I know both of these ladies had really strong mentors. And what's a mentor? I know mentoring is such a commonly used word now, but and there's definitions and there's books written on it, but I would describe it as someone that you can be really brutally honest about how you are, how you're feeling about your business, your life, how you're approaching things, your state of your mental health, someone really honest that you can talk to about it, and who that person can give you really, really honest feedback about whether you're going towards your goal or not. Because there's no point beating around the bush when you're in these conversations. It's a total waste of time. So I would say you've got to have people around you who you absolutely trust that they want the best for you. And that might not be the family that you're in. In fact, quite often having someone really external, because they can just see you for who you are. I've had some fantastic mentors. You've got to be able to give your mentor something back. I'd recommend anyone who hasn't got one, find someone that you can call your mentor, but make sure you give them something back, otherwise the relationship doesn't work. It isn't a one-way relationship. But both of these ladies had really strong people around them, and I know they were getting really, really strong feedback, and I think that really helped them. It's really helped me. I continue to use my mentors outside work, and I got one lady who's absolutely brilliant. You know, I'll be talking and then she'll just say, stop, what's going on? And they're the kind of people you want in your life, because they help you get better and better and succeed. I don't know if you've had sort of experience of that, and whether you think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 2 mentors, always have done. And I think in a family business, particularly when you take over from an older generation, probably your parents, you might look to them as mentors. But I think you're absolutely right in that you need someone external, because family businesses are often guilty of just always doing what they've always done. And therefore you always get what you've always got. And I think that outside pair of eyes who can just challenge you, tell you to stop, who you can be brutally honest with, is so important. And it's not disrespecting to your parents, because you know you have to, there is an appreciation for what they've achieved and where they've got the business. But as the next generation, it's time to build your own network of peers. And I know so many women, one in particular I can think of, she took over her family business from her father, and she sat at their first board meeting and she looked around and she thought, these are not the people I need to get my business where I want it to go. They have been fantastic for my father, and they've brought him along the way over the last 30 years, but I need a new board. Now that's a big decision to make. That's tough and that's brave, and you're going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
But what you said about a vision, and I would interpret your vision as your why. You have to remember that at the front of every single thing you do. Your why.
Yeah, you're right. And it's about purpose and why am I here? And actually, I have been doing bits of reading when I've had a bit of time in COVID. And as I said, I got a lady to run some videos for me that I shared. But one of the videos we talked, she said, well, what do you think would be useful? And we talked about something. And then she just said to me, and she said, Francesca, what value have you added to your day today? And it was in the evening over a cup of coffee, remote. And I said, pardon? And she said, and I said, I've been busy, I've done this. And she said, no, but what value have you added to your life today? She said, I can see you've added lots of value to the bank and lots of value to your children, but what have you added for you? And I said, what a great question. I don't know, nothing. She said, well, I suggest you start thinking about the value that you're adding to your life as part of your daily work plan per se. And I think that's the why. It's, why am I here? I'm not here just to look after my kids. I'm not here just to create value for the bank. I'm also here for myself as well. And I think it's that why, that purpose, that vision for what it's about. And that, I think we've had a lot more time to think about this year. So, and as you say, that's such a brave decision to be able to take, to change the board. But it's about surviving for the long term. And the family business has to be about the long-term survival. And things change, you know. One thing we've learned is you can't plan anything really at the moment, because you know things are going to change. Long-term survival, long-term flourishment is what the family business needs. So what a brave decision, but absolutely the right thing to do.
Okay, I haven't done anything to add value to my life today, so I'm going to...
Seriously, what a great question though, isn't it?
Brilliant question. So I'm just going to trot off now and
Seriously, do it. Ask yourself, and then it forces you to think. It's such a great question.
Brilliant question. And we had an online conference in the very early days of the pandemic, and we were so privileged to have Lady Jane Angadia, and she set up Virgin Money with Richard Branson. Well, she was phenomenal. I was a little bit terrified to begin with, but then I met her and she was phenomenal. And you know what? It all came down to values. And in a family business, is there any more important foundation than your values? Because that is your why. And I think sometimes as you get bigger or you move faster and you grow faster, sometimes those values become diluted or forgotten, or you get distracted and mixed up with the exciting things that are happening. But actually now is a really good time to go back and revisit those values. And they don't have to be the same values as your parents or your grandparents or your great-great-great-great-grandfather who set the business up 500 years ago. They need to be your values, but everyone has to believe in them. And that really struck a chord with me when Lady Gadia was talking about that. For all of the years she's been working with Richard Branson and the businesses she's built, and she's launched her own company, all comes down to values. And that's got to be your why, hasn't it?
You are absolutely spot on. And actually, we worked in the same bank together many, many years ago. I wasn't talking about her, but I was talking to someone about someone quite similar to her. So you're absolutely spot on. And actually, you've made me think, because it's something I've been talking about recently. You're right. Everybody's got to have, if not the same, very similar values. But the conflict comes on what happens if someone doesn't. And I think that's something that as a business leader certainly of a family business, what do you do if you've got someone in your troop that doesn't share the same value? Now that I think you have to address, and that's probably one of the most difficult things to do in a family business, probably harder than a corporate, but I think it will distract from what you're trying to achieve. So you do need to, it'll be one of the hardest things to do, but you have to deal with it. People who don't share the same values, it creates conflict. You're not going to the same direction, and you just have to sort it out, however hard it is.
And I think in the process of recruitment, so I remember hearing Hannah Khan, whose father, James Khan, the dragon, set up a recruitment firm, and she looked after their recruitment for him. And she said, before I even saw a CV, I spoke to them on the phone and I said to them, what is important to you? And actually, all of that technical stuff, I can find someone to do that. I can train you to do that. But I need to know what's important to you, because if it doesn't fit our business, this is never going to work. And again, another brave thing to say in a recruitment process, not tell me about your experience or how have you found this challenge, how have you overcome this, or what can you bring to our business, but what's important to you? Because if it works, it's going to really work. If it works for both of us, it's going to be a long, successful relationship. And I thought that was quite a strong, brave thing to do as well.
Well, I always use a couple of questions in my interview technique, which normally throws the candidate and the people I'm interviewing with, if they don't know me. I say, if I contacted your partner, or if they haven't got a partner, brother or sister, how would they describe you? And they always look at, oh my God, is she going to ring someone? But actually, I want to know how people really close to you in your life would describe you, because that will tell me a lot about your values. And also what makes you not sleep at night. That tells you a lot about a person, about what their value system is, because you worry about certain things, you don't worry about others. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it should all be about values. And again, and I harp a little bit back to COVID, but I think another thing COVID's done is limited our ability to communicate with people. And I was certainly feeling it, and I was talking to some of my friends about it. We've become quite distant. People as human beings have become quite distant. And we've chosen our time a lot more wisely, because we don't have much time or ability to meet people. And I don't know about you, but I've found I am choosing people who bring something positive to my life, and I'm distancing, not deliberately, but I'm looking back at the year and I've distanced myself from people who aren't bringing something positive to my life. And I think that's come about as COVID. So I think like-minded people are grouping together now. I've certainly noticed it in my life. And I think that value system you talk about, this is a great time for family businesses with really strong values to get out there and promote themselves, because people are spending a lot of time at home. We're all way too much online, I would suspect. But what a great opportune moment, because people are looking for connection. One thing that I think's really bad about COVID is people have lost human touch because we're not touching. The children are losing the ability to touch, and we're losing the ability to hug people. And it's quite a female trait, but it's not. It guys as well, but we're losing that connection with people, and we've got to find ways of connecting. And I think the family businesses are in a way better place to be able to do that. So go and grab new audiences who have got similar values to yourselves.
I miss a good hug.
I know. My son, my 15-and-a-half-year-old son, got a hug the other day, and he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I realised I needed it. He clearly didn't.
Love it. Okay, right. I could talk all day to you, Francesca, but we're going to have to wrap up at some point. Yeah. So I think what I've taken from what you've said there in your sort of years and years of working leadership roles, working with women in business, working with family businesses, some of those secrets are to plan. No matter what it's for, whether it's to have a baby, to spend more time at home, to take over the family business, whatever it might be, plan for it and enable your business to plan for it and become a more robust business, quite frankly. Great exercise to do. To know your vision or your why, and to always have that somewhere in the back of your mind, and that every decision you make is working towards that. It's not just something that's a distraction, which women very easily get distracted by shiny things. So know your vision. Maybe revisit your values, particularly if you've taken over a long-standing family business and, you know, our values have always been plastered on the wall in reception and everyone knows it's on the website, but are they your values? Yeah. Are they the values of the business now and of the people who work with you now, and of your audiences now? Actually, now's a really good time to revisit those. Mentorship. Find a mentor. There's plenty of people sat at home with lots of time on their hands now who want to be able to give back. And they don't have to be in your industry. They don't have to be another woman. It could be anyone that you feel comfortable being honest and brutally open with. Definitely. And I don't know how you do this, but to build your resilience. I don't know how, there's no secret textbook on how to build resilience, is there? But I think the things that happen to us in life, a little bit of resilience is left with us every time.
Well, there is a way of building your resilience, and it's really simple, I think. Just look back and start appreciating what you've achieved. It is incredible. If you actually sit down, look at the last year, and again, we're not very good at this. Be really grateful for what you've got, but tell yourself how good you are. I highly encourage you, every night or every week, congratulate yourself on something you've achieved. It is incredible how quickly you can build up not just your self-confidence, but also your resilience. Yeah, I've done that. I've got through that. I achieved this. Suddenly you'll realize how resilient you are. You may not realize it, but you'll find out. So I would definitely do lots and lots of self-congratulation, particularly if you're running your own family business, because you will have been through so much.
Completely. Actually, that sparks an idea. One of my friends in their family life, every time something brilliant happens, they write on a bit of paper and they put it in a jar. And at the end of the year, I think it's on New Year's Eve, they get all those bits of paper out and they read it.
Fantastic. What a great idea.
Isn't that a good idea to do in your business? Because actually, I don't know about you, but I can't remember what happened in January. I can't remember that first week of the pandemic, but somehow we're here. So somehow we did something brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant idea. And it has so many benefits, not just as a reminder for what you've done, but also, as you say, personal. And it might give you ideas for next year as well.
Definitely. Okay. Any last words of inspiration, Francesca?
Last word, never, ever be too frightened to ask the stupid question. Honestly, I would not be sitting here today. I have found myself sat in meetings, even in my very, very junior days, I'd be the one piping up with the question and everyone looks around like, who's that? Seriously? When you ask a question, I can guarantee you there's at least 3-4 other people in the room who are too frightened to ask. Nobody ever gets in trouble for asking the stupid question. Just do it. That's my final piece of advice. I certainly, being a female CFO in banking, there aren't a huge amount of us. And I would say I asked an awful lot of questions on the way up. The what, the how, the why in particular. The why, as we talked about earlier. Get to the bottom of people's motivations, and it's much more enjoyable as well. But yeah, don't ever be frightened to ask the question.
Brilliant. Francesca, thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely inspiring.
It's been fantastic, and you've given me some really good ideas as well. So thank you. I really appreciate it.